Hi Tribe, let's talk about this reel I posted yesterday where I shared that I have 3 money market funds that I use to achieve my financial goals. First of all, the first reaction that I got from people was that, oh, so you mean you can have more than one money market fund? Yes, you can have more than one money market fund, and you can have more than one money market fund with the same money market fund manager. So for example, you can have 2 or 3 or 4 money market fund accounts with the same provider such as Sanlam, or you can have these different money market funds with different providers. So for example, you can have one money market fund with Sanlam, another one with CIC, and so on and so forth. I have 3 money market funds because I realized that it's very important for me to separate my goals in order for me to have clarity on how far I've come with each of these goals. Let's start with the first money market fund account, where I said that I use it to cover for my insurance needs. So as a small business owner, or rather as someone who is 100% self-employed, I am responsible for getting or paying for my insurance needs. So unlike people who have a 9-to-5 job or people who are not employed, and I'm very aware not all of them, usually you get your health insurance or sometimes life insurance from your employer. So your employer pays for such things. So there are people who have such benefits from the employment. Not everyone, but there are people who have such. But I, as a self-employed person, I am therefore responsible for paying for my own health insurance or paying for my own insurance needs. And so I realized that when I started researching about how much it would cost for me to get my own health insurance and my own critical illness insurance, I realized it's a significant amount of money that I need in order for me to get my own private health insurance. And I remember last year when I started researching how much it would cost me, I contacted my friend Miriam from Risk Africa, and from that conversation, I figured that it would cost me around 120,000 per year to cover my own health insurance. And so I started saving towards it. And so I figured that one of the best ways to do this is to open a separate money market fund account and for me to save towards that amount of money. And I still had the critical illness cover, and a critical illness cover is an insurance cover that covers you in the event of an accident, a critical illness such as cancer, a disability, such thing, so that you're paid a lump sum of money to replace how much money you are making from your income. Yeah. Remember that this whole insurance conversation started earlier last month when I started talking about how important it is to protect your wealth, because I said we've been doing the right things in terms of investing in bonds, in terms of investing in my market fund, instead of investing in real estate investment trust, in terms of investing in the stock market. But we also need, and that form of investments, those are wealth accumulation. But we also need to start doing what we call wealth protection. And wealth protection is where you protect your wealth. So for example, you get yourself a medical insurance so that in case you're ill, you don't have to sell your bond in order to pay your medical bill. One more thing I have remembered about critical illness covers is that you can get a critical illness cover as a standalone cover, right? Standalone to mean it only covers you in terms of when you get a critical illness, right? Or you can get a critical illness cover when it is an add-on to a life insurance. Remember, I had already taught you guys about what a life insurance policy is, and I said that if you have dependents, right? So if you're a mom, or rather if you're a parent, or you have dependents such as all elderly parents, grandparents, your nephews or nieces, if you have any dependents, then you need to get a life insurance. And a life insurance is something that replaces your economic value in case you pass on or in case you get a critical illness. Yeah, so it replaces your economic value because you are the one who provides for them. So if you're wondering, first of all, what is the difference between a medical insurance cover and a critical illness cover? I will read for you the definition of a critical insurance cover. So a critical illness cover pays out a lump sum when you get diagnosed with a severe illness like cancer, stroke, coma, heart attack, because medical insurance is usually not enough. Yes, most of our medical insurance covers are usually not enough to cover us when we get such critical illnesses. Yes, and so that is why you need an additional critical illness cover. Of course, you don't have to get them at the same time, because it also, and that is why again I said I started by opening a money market fund account to save towards getting my own medical insurance. So you can do one at a time. And then, so what are the benefits of getting a critical illness cover? Benefits of getting a critical illness cover include taking care of medical bills, because as I said, some medical insurance covers are not enough, so you need some extra money. And then income replacement. Another benefit is income replacement when you cannot go to work, right? When you get a critical illness such as a coma or a stroke, you need money, right? So it's an income replacement when you cannot go to work. And then it's letting you focus on getting better instead of worrying about the bills. So you can imagine you get a critical illness and you're on your bed, right? In your illness bed, admitted at the hospital, and all you're worrying about is how are you going to get the bills paid. So that's why we get insurance. And then since it is a cash payout, you can use the funds to go to another country to seek treatment. So you see, those are the benefits. So ideally, you need both a medical insurance and a critical illness cover. Let me know if you have other questions. So I think that is sufficient information about critical illness covers. So now the other thing, as I've been saying, is that you also need a medical insurance. Of course, a medical insurance comes first before a critical illness cover, but I spent a lot of time talking about critical illness covers because a lot of us are not conversant about critical illness covers. So if you want a medical insurance cover, I will leave a link here that you can click to leave your details, and then my friend Marianne from Lerisk Africa will contact you and help you and get you on a discovery call to discuss about your needs for a medical insurance. I actually found the process of getting my own private medical insurance to be so interesting because I made sure I customized that conversation to meet my needs. So for example, I wear glasses, I cannot see without these things, so I made sure that my medical insurance had optical cover. I also have a few issues with my teeth, so I made sure I had dental cover. I was also excited to see that my medical insurance cover has a last expense cover, and the last expense cover is funeral expense. So it's an amount of money that goes towards covering your funeral needs. So if I passed on today an amount of money, not a lot because it is just a medical insurance cover that has a bit of a last expense cover. So it would pay, that insurance cover would pay my beneficiary or my next of kin an amount of money that would go towards covering my last expense. That was one more exciting thing I found about paying about having a medical insurance cover. But yes, this is an annual expense that I have to pay. So back to money market funds. So I discovered that I need around 120,000 per year to pay both my medical insurance and my critical illness cover. So I save. So yes, I save towards these insurances in one of my money market funds accounts because I do not want to get into a situation where the bill is due. So for example, now I know that my medical insurance bill is due every April. So in 2025 in April, my insurance provider will be like, give us money for this year's this year's medical insurance. And so I do not want to be in a situation where when that time comes and I'm asked for that money, then I say, then I do not have the money, or I get into a panic mode about raising that amount of money in an abrupt way, or even become one of those people who say that, oh, this month I didn't stick to my budget because I had an unexpected cost. A lot of us say, buying new tires for your car, servicing your car, for example, paying for your medical insurance and other non-monthly expenses are unexpected costs. Yet you knew you have those costs. To stick to the theme of this conversation, which is about wealth protection, how am I protecting my wealth so far? In 3 ways, if you've been following. The first one is that I have a critical illness cover. The second one is that I now have a private medical insurance cover, and I also pay for it's no longer called an HIF. I can't remember what it's called. I also pay for that one because it's also important to have both private medical insurance and that government one. And then lastly, the third way that I am protecting my wealth is by saving towards my 1 year emergency fund. And so if you're wondering what an emergency fund is, help me answer this question. If you lost your job tomorrow, how long will you take before you slide back into poverty? If you lost your job tomorrow, how long would it take before you start, borrowing money from friends and family for support? If the answer to that question is not 6 months or more, then you need to start saving for an emergency fund. And so how do you calculate how much money you need in your emergency fund? You ask yourself, how much money do I need to survive per month? So rent, food, household supplies, Wi-Fi, internet connection, electricity, water, all those basic bills. How much money do you need to survive in a month? So let's say you need 100,000 to survive in a month. And then that is your 1 month emergency fund. So 100,000. And so for your 1 year emergency fund, multiply that 100,000 by 12. That's actually 1.2 million. So you need for your 1 year emergency fund in this case is 1.2 million. That is how you calculate your emergency fund. So that's how much money you need to in your money market fund for your emergency fund, and that's what I'm working towards. The conclusion here is that apart from growing our wealth, we need to protect our wealth. We need to get a medical insurance and a critical insurance cover so that in case we get an illness, for example, we do not withdraw money from our money market fund accounts, or we do not sell our bonds or shares or our real estate investment trust units in order for us to pay that medical bill. It is detrimental because then you're interrupting your compounding journey. If you have dependents, then if you're a parent, if your grandparents depend on you, if your nephews or nieces, if you have anyone in your life who depends on you, if you have anyone in your life whose livelihood would be affected, or who would sleep hungry, or who would not go to school if you passed on, or if you got into a terrible accident, or if you got into a critical illness, then you need life insurance, because again, life insurance replaces your economic value by paying you a lump sum.